Okay, let's dive right into this explainer, because today we are tackling what is, honestly, the ultimate football debate. We're talking about the absolute, undisputed pinnacle of the beautiful game. I'm talking about the teams that didn't just win, but completely conquered everything in their path. The kind of squads that stepped onto the pitch and literally made world-class millionaire opponents look like they were playing in a Sunday amateur league. They turned the biggest stadiums in the world into their own personal playgrounds. Now, across the entire history of this sport, fans, analysts, and even the players themselves have argued endlessly in pubs, in the stands, in living rooms about which side was truly, objectively the greatest. So today, we're stripping away the nostalgia, we are breaking down the numbers, the tactics, and the undeniable history to analyze the most dominant club teams ever assembled. It's going to be a wild ride.
But right off the bat, before we even start looking at the contenders, we have to ask a really massive, fundamental question. What actually makes a team truly dominant? Is it simply about the physical silverware, the cold, hard trophies sitting in the glass cabinet at the end of the season? Or is it about completely rewiring how the game is played? Because if you follow football, you know history has this brutal habit of sometimes rewarding results over pure greatness, and greatness over results. Some teams come in, they conquer the tactical landscape, revolutionizing the sport for literally decades, yet somehow they stumble at the final hurdle. Then you have other teams that might actually struggle in their domestic leagues, but they possess this undeniable, almost supernatural DNA that allows them to conquer Europe year after year after year. So what is it, the hardware or the legacy?
To really grasp what historical perfection actually looks like, I want you to just listen to this quote. "In my time as manager, it's the best team I faced." That is Sir Alex Ferguson, arguably the greatest, most successful manager in the history of English football, speaking right after his Manchester United side was completely dismantled in the 2011 Champions League final. Now, keep in mind, his United team wasn't some underdog. It was phenomenal, absolutely packed with global superstars. Yet they were left chasing shadows for 90 long, agonizing minutes. When a legendary, battle-tested manager like Ferguson openly admits that his world-class roster was fundamentally outclassed, well, you know you're looking at a team that has touched the absolute ceiling of the sport. Section 1. Changing the game. So to understand modern dominance, we absolutely have to start with the tactical pioneers, the teams that literally built the foundations of how we view the game today. And there are two completely opposite yet equally terrifying ways to essentially break the sport. On one side, you have the Dutch masters of the 1970s, Ajax. They invented what we call total football. This was a completely revolutionary system where every single outfield player could seamlessly rotate into every other position. I mean, defenders became attackers mid-move, forwards dropped back to cover the defense. It was this beautiful fluid geometry that completely rewired how coaches even thought about space and movement. And it worked, winning them 3 straight European Cups between 1971 and 1973. But then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have AC Milan in the late 1980s and early 90s. Instead of fluid rotation, they brought in a terrifyingly rigid, synchronized defensive system known as catenaccio. Their backline moved like they were tied together with an invisible rope. They sprang offside traps so perfectly coordinated that opposing forwards would get caught 4, 5, or 6 times in a single half. It completely neutralized the world's most lethal strikers. Let's actually look a little closer at that legendary AC Milan era. Under Arrigo Sacchi and later Fabio Capello, Milan wasn't just beating teams, they were suffocating the absolute life out of them. In the 1989 European Cup final, they destroyed Steaua Bucharest 4-0. And this was a game so mercilessly one-sided that the Steaua players later admitted it literally felt like they were playing an entirely different sport. Then between 1991 and 1993, this squad went on a jaw-dropping 62-match unbeaten streak. Just think about that for a second. 62 matches. That is nearly 2 full seasons in one of the most physically demanding leagues in the world, without a single loss. It stood as a towering monument to their ironclad defense. And just to prove to everyone that it wasn't some fluke, in the 1994 European Cup final, they faced a Barcelona side globally hailed as the Dream Team and absolutely humiliated them, winning 4-0 yet again. They were an absolute waking nightmare to play against.
Section 2. The possession perfection. 68%. That is the amount of possession Barcelona held against Manchester United in that 2011 Champions League final we talked about earlier. 68%. This wasn't just passing the ball around to look pretty for the cameras. This was a calculated, strategic strangulation. Opposing teams would sometimes touch the ball fewer than 200 times in an entire 90-minute match. Why? Simply because Barcelona flat out refused to give it back. They made a world-class Manchester United squad look like they were running on a treadmill, just lungs burning, hopelessly chasing the ball from sideline to sideline. Barcelona entirely dictated the pace, the space, and the outcome of the biggest match in club football without ever letting their foot off the gas.
But what makes this specific era under Pep Guardiola arguably the most dominant in history is exactly how it was constructed. You see, this wasn't bought dominance, it was built dominance. The absolute core of this team, Lionel Messi, Xavi, Andres Iniesta, Sergio Busquets, every single one of them came through Barcelona's own youth academy, La Masia. They were learning this exact, highly intricate tiki-taka system from the time they were 7 years old. They didn't just know the coach's tactics, they communicated telepathically on the pitch. This homegrown mastery culminated in 2009, when they won an unprecedented 6 major trophies in a single calendar year. That's a feat literally no club had ever achieved before. And the crazy thing? That influence bled right onto the international stage. That exact same Barcelona core formed the unbreakable spine of the Spanish national team that won 3 consecutive major international tournaments between 2008 and 2012. We're talking 2 European championships and a World Cup. It was a highly localized, regional ideology that ended up conquering the entire globe.
And the most fascinating part is that this club philosophy didn't end with the men's team. When Barcelona fully committed to professionalizing their women's side using that exact identical La Masia methodology, it created absolute terrifying perfection. Check out the 2021-2022 Barcelona feminine squad. In their domestic league, they scored a mind-bending 146 goals while conceding only 8 across the entire campaign, 146-8. They won the treble, including the Champions League, and finished their domestic season with a literal 100% win rate. Every single game was a victory. No off days, no draws, no lucky flukes. They are, for sure, the closest thing to flawless mathematical perfection the sport has ever seen.
Section 3. The Domestic Empires.
But look, as incredibly impressive as stylistic dominance is, there is a totally different kind of monster lurking in world football. If you want to see a brutal, undeniable changing of the guard, look no further than the 2013 Champions League semifinal. Remember that beautiful, possession-heavy Barcelona system we just praised so highly? Well, it ran headfirst into a ruthless, overpowering Bayern Munich machine. Over 2 legs, Bayern completely shut out the legendary Barcelona side, winning with a jaw-dropping aggregate score of 7-0. I mean, wow. Bayern held one of the greatest attacking teams of the century scoreless for 180 minutes, all while casually putting 7 goals past them. It was a punishing display of physical and tactical superiority, completely proving that overwhelming power, speed, and verticality could absolutely dismantle the possession game.
And that massive 2013 Bayern Munich victory basically kicked off an era of domestic tyranny that is, frankly, hard to even wrap your head around. 11. That is the official Guinness World Record number of consecutive Bundesliga titles Bayern Munich won between 2013 and 2023. For over a decade, in one of the top 5 leagues in the entire world, no other team was allowed to even touch the trophy. That is an unbroken era of dominance that takes a highly competitive, multi-million-dollar domestic league and turns it into a one-team procession. Opposing teams didn't play Bayern hoping to win. They played them hoping to survive the 90 minutes. It is just relentless, inevitable consistency.
Section 4. The Unrivaled Summit.
So what happens when we strip away the style points? When we ignore the tactics and look purely at the sheer volume of top-tier hardware? Well, the gap between first and second place isn't just a record anymore, it's a dynasty. In the entire history of the European Cup and the modern Champions League, Real Madrid sits at the absolute top of the mountain with a staggering 15 titles. The next closest? AC Milan with 7. Real Madrid literally has more than double the continental trophies of their closest historical rival. As the old saying goes, there's Madrid and then there is everyone else. They possess this undeniable, almost mythical aura in this specific competition that completely defies logic, defies tactical trends, and defies eras. When the Champions League anthem plays, it's like the white shirt itself just finds a way to win the game.
And let's be real, they aren't just coasting on black and white footage from the 1950s either. Their modern dynasty under managers like Carlo Ancelotti and Zinedine Zidane is terrifyingly real right now. Between 2014 and 2018, Madrid achieved an unprecedented run of 4 European Cups in just 5 seasons. They built the legendary ruthless score featuring Cristiano Ronaldo, Sergio Ramos, Luka Modric, and Karim Benzema. They were fast, they were incredibly clinical, and they broke the hearts of every major team in Europe. But what truly separates Madrid from literally any other club in history is their capacity to endlessly reinvent their roster. They can bring in new Galacticos, swap out generational talents, and do it all without ever taking a single step down from the absolute summit of European football.
But here is the great, bizarre paradox of Real Madrid. Under Jose Mourinho in the 2011-2012 season, they were statistically insane. We're talking 100 league points, a record 121 goals scored, and a plus 89 goal differential. They were practically flawless. Yet that specific, perfect team didn't win the Champions League. Now, fast forward to Zinedine Zidane's era. Real Madrid managed to win 3 consecutive Champions League titles, often while actively struggling domestically in the Liga, sometimes finishing well behind Barcelona in the points table. It perfectly proves that Real is a club uniquely engineered for the high-wire, high-stakes act of knockout European football. They just find a way to win the ultimate prize, conjuring absolute magic in the 90th minute, even when they aren't dominating week in and week out at home.
Section 5. The final verdict.
With all these massive stats and tactical revolutions laid out on the table, it's time to bring in the expert analysis from the legends who actually had to play against these monoliths. English defender Jamie Carragher points straight to AC Milan's ruthless peak in 1994 as the ultimate sign of dominance. For Carragher, it's all about the context of the victory. I mean, to walk into a European Cup final against Johan Cruyff's fabled Barcelona dream team, a squad literally everyone universally expected to win, and just systematically dismantle them 4-0, that shows a level of tactical and physical superiority that is incredibly hard to argue against. It's the ultimate sign of respect for a squad that didn't just edge out their rivals, they absolutely destroyed them on the biggest stage possible. On the other hand, contrast that with the viewpoint of legendary French forward Thierry Henry. For him, Barcelona's 2011 side holds the ultimate historical edge. Why? Well, because of how they were built. Henry passionately argues that constructing a team of homegrown academy players, kids who organically learn a complex philosophy together and then use it to completely dominate world football, is infinitely more impressive than simply buying a team of ready-made superstars. For him, it's the ultimate triumph of a specific system. It's a deeply ingrained identity and a pure romantic vision of football winning out over sheer financial muscle.
So, when you look at all of it, the raw data, the tactical revolutions that broke the game, the unbroken winning streaks, and the cabinets absolutely overflowing with silver, how do you define absolute greatness? Which deserves the title of most dominant? The teams who relentlessly ground out victories and simply refuse to lose, or the teams who completely rewired the sport and changed the beautiful game forever? Let us know how you weigh the hardware against the history and drop your ultimate pick in the comments below. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and we'll catch you in the next one.